tell me, like, what were your mental health struggles as it pertained to your debt? And like, when did you start to notice the correlation between the two?
Talking about the mental health issues, I think a lot of it is this idea that we have in our head of what our life will look like, what money and debt can buy us, the fancy degree, the fancy education, the connections, and then the reality that I keep getting rejected, the reality that I'm only making $10 to $12 an hour, the reality that I'm now on food stamps. So this huge gap in expectations versus reality caused a lot of my depression. I would say, the rejection was not easy when it comes to jobs. Obviously, moving across the coast again, because I had moved from LA to New York, and then I had moved from New York to Portland. So, all of that happening in just a few years was also jarring. And having to rebuild my network in Portland and starting over. And, I think with money and mental health and debt and depression, like for me, I am very risk averse when it comes to debt. And I realized this just in the past few years, that the reason I hated my debt and I was so, hell bent on getting out of debt quickly is because I'm risk averse. I have friends who are like, I'm in debt, I don't care. I was like, I wish I was that person. I wish I did not care, but it is eating me up inside every day. And so I just realized that about me, that I'm very risk averse when it comes to debt. I hate owing someone money. I feel like as long as I'm making money, but I owe someone money, it is not mine. And something that I've realized is that a lot of the depression and mental health issues from debt come from this feeling that you're paying for your past. You're paying for your past. You can't really pay for your present or your future. And so you kind of get stuck in this mindset of like, I'm paying for this decision that I don't even know is going to work out, that doesn't feel like it's working out, that feels like a mistake at this point. And, all of 2012, I was just super depressed and anxious about my debt. I, sought low-cost counseling at the local community college, and they had, a graduate counseling program offering clinic hours for cheap for people like me who couldn't really afford it. And it took pretty much all 2012 for me to just realize money is the problem. So I need to solve the money problem. And that's when I started my blog, Dear Debt, January 3rd, 2013. And I committed to paying off my debt because I said, if I can spend as much energy as I do crying, obsessing, being anxious about my debt, actually trying to have a healthy outlet for this, maybe I can actually pay off my debt. And so that one change really changed the trajectory of my whole entire life, and obviously my relationship with debt and also mental health and money.
Wow, Melanie, there's so much in here that feels really relatable, I think, for myself, and I can imagine for our listeners, even if we don't have the exact same story, this fantasy versus reality, things that we imagine for ourselves. Like what stands out to me from what you said is the fervor and the vigor, like those two words that you said after graduating from NYU. How exciting, what a moment of high and achievement to have received your master's from a prestigious school, to then find yourself months, a year later, realizing, oh, this isn't giving me what I thought that it would give me. I think that that is the story of many of us, thinking life would look a certain way and it doesn't. And yet you're still reminded of it because of the debt, and then reminded of what now you're perceiving to be a mistake. How did you navigate that, just even mentally thinking that what I did, what I thought was a really good idea, I'm now perceiving as a mistake? Like, how did you reconcile that?
Well, first I'll tell you what I did, and, as a lesson of what not to do. For probably that whole year, I just beat myself up again and again and again. It was just like, I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. I can't believe I quit my nonprofit job to go to New York and to get into all this debt. And now I'm so broke. And I was just like on this hamster wheel in my mind, obsessing, beating myself up, and just, I could not let it go. And it's like, as if somehow beating myself up would absolve the shame and guilt I was feeling. You know, I had this shame for not being able to find a full-time job to pay back the debt. I had this guilt of going to this fancy private school, you know, as if, you know, beating yourself up would actually do anything, but it actually just keeps you stuck. So don't do what I did, but that's what I did for, like I said, about a year. And then it was at the end of 2012 when I was just like, I've been doing this for a year. Like, I literally just can't go on like this. Something has to change. And I don't know what that is, but I have to make some kind of movement. And you know, that's when I discovered personal finance blogs. So like a lot of people, I went to Google how to pay off debt, and I found personal finance blogs, and I read all of these entries of real people who had paid off debt. And I had never met anyone in my real life who had paid off debt. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know these people, but they've paid off debt. Maybe I can too. And because I had read enough personal finance blogs, I thought, I have a unique voice. My problem isn't that I overspent on credit cards, isn't that I'm going to downsize my house or my cars. It's literally that I just paid too much for school and I'm going to try to get out of it. And, you know, my story from paying off student loan debt and being a minimalist and being a low income earner, and also talking about the relationship and mental health impact of debt, because in 2013, I didn't see any of that around. And I was like, this feels like the elephant in the room that about, let me talk about it. And so, you know, Dear Debt is really born out of writing Dear John letters or breakup letters to debt. So, you know, Dear Debt, I'm so over you. Dear Debt, we're done. And it started as a personal project for, just like I said, for me to have that creative outlet, because it was eating me alive, to put it in a positive, you know, spin, and then also invited others in the community to write their own breakup letters to debt. So it just expanded my view on debt and money and community, and it provided so much for me. And it also was a great accountability tool, because I posted my debt repayment updates every month. I posted my side hustle adventures, the wins and the fails, and all the wild things I was doing to earn more money. And yeah, so really channeling that changed everything for me.
Yeah, Melanie, I like how you're describing what didn't work and what does work, that shame versus kindness to yourself, that shame is not actually a beneficial motivator. It's not going to actually get us that far. We love to sit in that place, but we can become stuck there. But then finding actual creative outlets, kindness to ourselves, especially over the things that we cannot change. Like, what's done is done, but what do I have control over?